Last call for Sonic R.
Come on. Let's do this. Just fucking go. Stupid shy bladder. Don't stand right next to me. That feels so good. Like when you hold it in, I mean really hold it in. Taking a piss feels better than sex. I mean that. I wouldn't know. Could you not talk, by the way? I can't pee when someone's talking to me. I can. Okay. I can't, so... Listen, piss talk in public restrooms is a golden opportunity to meet new people. That's how I met my dad. I've been told I'm not a fun person to talk to by, my parents, my coworkers, my therapist. That's okay, I'll start us off. My first accessible memory is my 12th birthday. It was a foggy day, and I had just set fire to the house. So Sonic R is a Sonic racing game released in 1997. It wasn't their first attempt at a Sonic racing game, that would be Sonic Drift, which was later followed by Sonic Drift 2. But it was the first 3D Sonic racing game. I mean, at least one using 3D models. I don't know if Drift counts as 3D. It's using sprites, but I guess the map is technically 3-dimensional. Also, it was the first Sonic racing game where the characters run on their feet for the most part. I mean, Eggman and Amy don't get this treatment. Eggman has his iconic ship, which might only be fair since he is canonically faster than Sonic. Amy, on the other hand, I don't get it. I've never seen her in this fucking car anywhere else, maybe some official artwork or something, but not in any games or anything like that. And it's just not fun to play. It's a fucking shitty car. It's horrible to control this thing, and it's so slow too. I would have really loved a game where you got to control classic Amy. That would have been neat. But they just aren't for that, apparently. Not playable in Origins, not playable in any of the other classic games. Later entries in the series, such as Sonic Rivals, Sonic Adventure 2 multiplayer mode, and Sonic Forces the mobile game, would also include racing on foot gameplay, but this is the first game that focused on this style of gameplay, and despite its flaws, it's a game I like quite a bit. Hey, I knew you had a good conversation in you. What's Sonic? He's a blue rat who eats chili dogs and saves the environment. Sounds a little bit like an Awesome Possum knockoff, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I mean, he probably is, but, the gaming industry is built on plagiarism. So what about Sonic R makes me like it? It seems to be a game with a mainly negative reception. Normally when I hear people bring it up, it's not in a very positive light. Well, nostalgia is definitely a factor here. I grew up playing the game on the Sonic Gems collection, so revisiting it was a nice blast from the past. But I also kind of liked Sonic 4 when I was younger, and we all know how revisiting that game went for me, so after playing it again for this channel, I can say that yeah, I still like it a good bit. I like the models for these characters. They absolutely come off as acceptable for the time, but even now, I don't know, I just kinda like them. They're very cute and simple models for the characters, and I enjoy looking at them while playing the game. While there was a game like Sonic 3D Blast where I think the in-game models looked really rough, this one holds up in kind of a retro way, I guess. It's like them including the Mario 64 version of Mario and Odyssey. He is obviously a downgrade in terms of graphics, but in terms of aesthetic, well, a lot of people loved the decision to include him. And just like them using the Mario 64 model, Sonic Rebel Blast 2, probably the most beloved fan game of the series, allows you to use their own original sprites, or you can turn on the old Sega Saturn options and finally take Amy out of that goddamn car! I think the game's original sprites look nicer, there was clearly a lot of effort and passion put into them, but I do like that we have this option. I do like looking at these old models again. Finally getting to see them be used in a proper platforming game instead of a racing game. Something about the simplistic shapes and colors, I just think they're really charming. Robotnik is the only one that looks a little off to me. I don't know, maybe it's just because him being a human makes the design a little harder to simplify like this. His arms look like they belong to a stuffed animal. The levels are all pretty enjoyable too. Resort Island has probably one of the brightest and cheeriest songs of the entire series with Can You Feel the Sunshine, but on top of that I just think it's pretty well designed. You have alternate paths to take, you have different landmarks like the waterfall, the old town, the mountain, etc. Radical City also has a really catchy and memorable song, which yeah, that's going to be the case with all of these levels. The game has a really unique soundtrack with each of the tracks having lyrics. R is not the only Sonic game to do this, but it is one of a few. Hell, even then I'm not even really sure if there's another game that does this for every level. I think Sonic Rush has some form of lyrics in every level, but they might not be fully written songs and rather vocals to add a little bit of flavor to the game's music. I'll get to that one when I get to it. Anyways, Radical City is another fun level. A little more simple than Resort Island, you're mainly just running on a highway the entire time, but they do throw in some other ideas like a pinball section. And like all the other levels, it has multiple paths and all that fun stuff. Good map. Regal Ruin has the song Back in Time, which is close to my favorite song in the game. I don't know, Can You Feel the Sunshine might just be a little bit more over it. It's just such an iconic song for the series and I really enjoy it. But yeah, Back in Time is pretty high up there too. There's the Sonic fan film called Sonic Prologue, which is a fan interpretation of how Sonic and Tails meet for the first time, which is honestly very close to how they ended up doing it in Origins. But during the scene of their first meeting, they have a cover of this song. A little off topic, I know, but I always just thought that was a really cool pick for a song here. I think it was very creative. A lot of people probably would have just played Tails' Adventure theme or something. It definitely made me like the song a little more, as it just kinda reminds me of these two now. The level itself is good, but in terms of the controls, it can be a bitch at points. A lot of sharp turns on this map. I don't think it would have been a huge problem, however, if the controls were better, so maybe that critique is better saved for later. I like this map too. It's very charitable of how you collect the Chaos Emeralds, with them both being really close to one another. Definitely a big help considering, well, again, the turning in the stage. Reactive Factory is probably my least favorite level, and it has my least favorite song, Work It Out. The level nor the song are bad in my opinion, they're just a good bit weaker than the previous stages and previous songs. For the most part, I'm fine with this one, although there's some really weird shortcuts on this map that took me way too long to find. I just noticed that the characters were somehow getting way ahead of me on every lap, but the shortcut isn't just out in the open. Maybe this is a little bit fair since it's basically the final map before the one you unlock, so the shortcuts are a little harder to spot, but it's really specific in this stage. There's this part where you jump off a ramp, and in order to get to the shortcut, you need to immediately move to the right, which allows you to skip a good gap of the stage. You don't have to do this during the regular race, although it helps, but I think it is a necessity to beat in Metal Knuckles. He will get way ahead of you every single time unless you do this, and it frustrated the hell out of me during my playthrough. There's other small things that I don't like the gray roads on the map are supposed to highlight shortcuts, but some of the gray roads on this map actually slow you down. Maybe they're actually more so there to highlight alternate paths rather than shortcuts, but fuck, there is no reason to access that fucking submarine path. Outside of collecting that one coin for unlocking the characters, that is. There's also this fucking part near the end of a lap where the road splits into two parts, and I swear they need to give you more reaction time. I accidentally took the same path so many times because of that. Turning around takes way too fucking long in this game, and if you need to collect the coins, this is really irritating. Sonic R for the most part is a very easy game, but when it's difficult, it's mainly because of a bad design choice. Radiant Emerald. You get two songs in the stage. If you play normally, you get Diamond in the Sky, and if you play as Supersonic, you get the game's main theme, Supersonic Racing. Both are good songs. The stage itself is satisfying to play after collecting all the emeralds and having Supersonic. You kinda have this nice feeling of accomplishment by reaching this point, as it's the only stage you don't have unlocked from the start. But honestly, once you have, it's definitely the most generic. Like, yeah, it's cool to play one time, but after that, I mean, the entire thing looks exactly the same. Nothing too special here, but nothing irritating either. It's just kind of bland, I guess. That's all the maps. Perhaps a couple more would have been nice, but I think they did a good job on the ones they did give us. And maybe the number of stages were fair considering the hardware it was on and the time it came out. I couldn't tell you, honestly. I loved playing through these maps as a kid, though. Me and my buddy would turn on balloon mode and just agree not to collect them until we were ready to leave, so we could just kind of explore the maps together. It kind of gave off the similar thrill that the sandbox mode in Kirby Air Riders gave off. Just the ability to run around as characters that you like. Good times. The credit song is the only track that doesn't play in any level, and yeah, it's good too. I'll be doing a video on all the Sonic songs with lyrics in the near future, so I'll go into more detail there. For the game's roster, you start off with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. You can unlock Dr. Robotnik, Metal Sonic, Tailstar, Metal Knuckles, Egg Robo, and Super Sonic. You can unlock Dr. Robotnik by completing the final map in the game, and Super Sonic by collecting each Chaos Emerald within the maps, while scoring first place in each one. The other four you unlock by collecting 5 coins in a map, and at least scoring third place by the end of the race. This will take you to a one-on-one race between you and the character you want to unlock, and just like Super Smash Bros., you must defeat them in order to unlock them. Each character is connected to a map, Metal Sonic being in Resort Island, for example. Be sure to go into your settings and save manually after unlocking these characters because there is no autosave. I learned that the hard way. What? It doesn't save?
I didn't save.
You have to load your save file every time you start the game up, although there might be an autosave in the Gems Collection version of Sonic R. It's been a while, I can't quite remember. I think for the time this was a good roster. These are mostly pre-existing characters, with Metal Knuckles and Tailstar being the only two new ones. Two characters that are definitely more relevant to the fans than the actual series. These two will occasionally appear in comics, but they haven't been in a single game since this one. Tails still even has this place in the horror side of the internet, as a lot of people were apparently afraid of this little fella. I never really understood this one when I was a kid, but I definitely saw fan art as a kid that was a little unsettling. Most of these characters are very fun to play as, although I do have a problem with some of them, which I'll dive more into in a bit. I'd say the ones that are worth playing the game fairly as are Sonic, Knuckles, Metal Sonic, and Egg Robo. The overpowered but fun characters to play as are Super Sonic and Metal Knuckles. Dr. Robotnik and Tails Doll are okay, not my favorites, and Tails and Amy are genuinely horrible to play as. I think the only character that feels like he's missing from this game is Fang. I don't know, perhaps they were done with Fang at this point. He had a very short run in the Sonic games, but I always kind of considered him like the classic version of a modern rival, like Shadow for example. Although I guess most people would argue that'd be Metal Sonic, but I don't know, I feel like he's a completely different entity. But it's always nice seeing him in old spin-off games like Sonic Drift 2 and Sonic the Fighters. I don't know, I feel like he could have been here. Thank you, Roboblast 2, you really are the best. So, I like the characters, I like their models, I like the music, I like the stages, I like the overall consistency of the game, so why do people dislike this game? I don't know why. Wow, you're still going, huh? I drank 13 Mountain Dews this morning. That seems dangerous. I wouldn't be doing that if I were you. Anyways. Yeah, I briefly mentioned it before, but turning this game is absolutely terrible. Whenever you need to turn around, you come to a complete stop, and once you're at the point you need to go, you can start back up, like a tank. That is a horrible mechanic for a racing game. Look, I'm not an expert when it comes to racing games. I know that there are things that can slow you down and you need to build momentum back up, but to have this much of a slowdown, especially when it's super easy to miss the coins just by an inch in this game, that can be incredibly frustrating. I don't know if this was related to hardware issues or just a lack of experience from the people making the game. I mean, it was a pretty early 3D Sonic game, but it is a major flaw. And I mean, it's not like the game controls super well outside of that. It's a pretty sloppy game in terms of movement. It can sometimes be difficult to run into small things like the rings or the coins you need to collect, just because the character movement is super clunky. Certain characters don't have a high enough jump to use the springs. I could give Robotnik and Amy a pass because they're in vehicles, but why the fuck can't Tails Doll make that jump? He's on the ground. The character balance isn't that great. Winning a race with Amy is very difficult, meanwhile Metal Knuckles can just skip large portions of the map with his gliding. Honestly, just looking at this game as a whole, it's very frustrating to control the entire time. But I'm personally okay with it because I got used to it. And I can't fault anyone who can't get used to it, but I did. And to be fair, despite the controls, the CPUs are so fucking stupid that you will likely beat them. They do not have a smart AI. Although one detail I will give this game some credit for is some of the CPUs have better AIs than others, and depending on which character you're playing as depends on which ones will appear on the map. So if you play as Sonic, you get Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Robotnik. If you play as Super Sonic, who is faster, you get Metal Sonic, Tails Doll, Egg Robo, and Metal Knuckles, who are a little faster and usually take the shortcuts. So that is one thing that the fine folk who programmed this game took a second to think about. Also, the sound in this game is pretty awful. I'm not talking about the music, I'm not contradicting myself. So many of these sound effects sound awful. Regular Sonic sounds like jumps and rings are pretty much the same, but turning, Tails flying, Amy's driving, Sonic's dying, they are all terrible sounds that in some cases just never stop. I swear, Tails is my least favorite character to play as in this game, and it's 100% because of the noise. His two tails make a noise even if you aren't flying. Anytime he moves, there's an irritating sound coming from him. I don't mind stuff like hearing the character's footsteps, in fact it's so awkward at points that I actually find it funny, but the noises coming from Tails are way too loud and the only way to make it stop is to come to a complete stop. Now with that being said, I still like Sonic R. The problems I have with it are there, and they are quite large problems, but I still think that the game is fun to play once you get used to the controls, and you don't have to play as Tails. I mainly just stick with Sonic and Super Sonic. This is probably going to be the most controversial thing I ever say on this channel, but I'm giving Sonic R a 7 out of 10, making it the highest ranking I've done on the channel so far. Now this rating really only applies to Sonic games since those are the games that I am comparing. Compared to everything else that's out there, it's definitely lower than a 7, but I think in terms of what I'm looking for in one of these games, it has a really nice aesthetic, and it is consistent. So if you're able to have fun playing it, you'll probably enjoy the entire thing. When Colors was at its peak, I think it could be a fucking 9 out of 10 game, but there were just so many levels where my interest died down for a bit and I was just playing to get through it. Sonic R I enjoy the entire time. Yes, the controls are a mess. Yes, that's going to ruin someone's experience. Yes, that takes a lot of the points off for this game. But God, I love the soundtrack, I love the look, I have such a nostalgic feeling for it. A lot of this rating does come from a personal place, but man, it's just once you get used to those controls and you can find your own fun with the game, I do think it's worth it. But again, I completely understand if this game doesn't appeal to anyone else. I genuinely think for most people, if you've never played it before, you're probably not gonna like it. Sonic R is probably someone else's 1 out of 10, but it is my 7 out of 10. Well, that's just beautiful. Oh my God, would you hurry up? I have to go visit my grandma and visiting hours are over in 40 minutes. Oh wow, you put your grandmother in a home? What a great grandson. No, she is in prison for murder. You need to stop rushing me. And you need to not take a goddamn year to pee. You know what? I don't have to take this from a Sonic R fan. I'll finish my business at home. I give Sonic R, I fucking already said it. Fuck. How do I end this? I end it like this. Bye.